Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Friday afternoon art stream. So, this week I am working on Age of Night, Chapter 22, Page 3. You've watched me draw this page, you've watched me do some of the background inking, and now I'm going to be doing the final inking, which will be done in brush. My Windsor Newton Series 7 sable inking brush, a size 4. Oh, come on, camera. There we go. Size 4. And yeah, from last time, I finished all of these background elements. So we've got all of the nib work done. The lettering was done in the stage before that. And so now I'm just going to go in with my brush and fill in everything that's left. I usually do large areas of spot blacks with the brush as well as the figures. So that is what we're doing today. If you happen to pop in, feel free to comment in the chat, ask me questions. I may not answer immediately because, obviously I have to look up and away from what I'm working on in order to read them on the screen, but I love to chat and answer questions while I'm working here. Might take me a minute to get to you, but I will respond. I was not able to do this last week because I was on the road. This time last week I was driving to New Hampshire, or I guess I was probably in New Hampshire by now, just not at my destination. I was on my way to Plastic City Comic-Con, which was a really good show. It's just a little one-day show in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, which is kind of not near much. And I guess it's kind of sort of close to like Marlborough and Boxborough and Framingham, that area. I'm just going to kind of cordon off these details right now so that I can just fill in all of this big space first. But it was a good little show. Had a good time. Stayed with some friends and fellow comic people. Which made the very long drive to Massachusetts a little bit easier since I could break it up and spend the night there. So that's where I was last week, which is why I uploaded a different art process video that I had recorded and edited together earlier. All right, got a big area of black kind of knocked in, and now I'm going to start working on the figure, which, if anyone's seen this before, sorry I whip the paper around a lot as I'm trying to get the best angle for my hand to be making the strokes I want to. All these details, try to keep these lines pretty nice and fine. Kamari looking kind of bedraggled here. Here we go. All right. That's most of the figure here. Just have to add a little bit of shading and definition. She's bent over here, so giving a little bit of a shadow on the top of her, the lower part of her tunic there helps to define that, so it looks more like she is actually bent over. Now I've got to get in between all of these little ripples in the water that I drew. Well, I probably will go back over some of this black and make a few more little ripples using either white gouache, or sometimes I also use white colored pencil. The easiest way to get a nice, well, I wouldn't say easiest, but the best way to get nice bright white against a big field of black is to just never paint it black in the first place. So just work around it. But that is pretty tricky. Kind of demanding. So yeah, not the easiest way, but it does give you the best contrast. It's going to look truly white and get the whole shape that you want. Because even the white gouache, even when you mix it pretty thick, sometimes you got to do a couple layers to really block out the black. All right. So we've got our little ripples and drips. I will probably, in the final stage of this, add some more ripples with gouache, like I said, but those shapes won't need to be quite as precise. Filling in the rest of this black. All right, so now that first panel is done, we can move on to the next panel, which was what the video I uploaded last week was about, was redrawing this panel. Because after the stream where I drew all of this, I was like, I don't like how this panel came out, so I redrew it. Made it better. Sometimes you just got to start over on a particular part and give it another try. A little bit of that shading in on her bracer there. She's got water dripping off her shirt. She's just completely soaked. Completely soaked and bedraggled. Wandering around the aqueducts under the city. Trying to find her way out. Big old drops of water coming off of her. Oh. Whoops, did I just bump the camera with my head? I'm sorry. My very silly setup here. I've got my camera like literally right next to my forehead. There's about a half an inch of clearance when I turn my head to the side, like I often do. So I apologize if everything starts shaking. Fill in some of that. Have to do the same thing as earlier where we, oops, now I'm hitting my light. Goodness gracious. I'm just a disaster. Don't mind me. All right, same kind of thing as earlier. We've got to get a little bit of a shadow in here, a little bit of definition. Re-wet my brush. Just give it a quick rinse. You want to just kind of give it a quick rinse every once in a while when you're inking, because deep inside the brush, that ink is starting to dry and get all gunky. So I'm going to periodically rinse it and then reform your tip. I've got a little, here, I'll show you guys. I've got a little scrap paper that's just out of frame here that I'm using to oh, it's not quite out of frame. It's actually on the corner of the frame this time. Yeah, see, I don't even know. Just kind of hone that point back down. So that it's the right shape when you go to use it. You don't touch the brush to the paper and then go, what happened? Whip around another direction. Trying to keep her hair looking kind of wet and heavy and not quite as fluffy and frizzy as it normally is. All right. Go in and get some of these details on her face. Hone that point back down again. All right. can be tricky to make an open mouth actually look like it's supposed to. Actually look like she's got teeth in there. Faces in general are just kind of hard. Doesn't take much to do them wrong. All right, another clump of hair here. And her hand. She's kind of leaning on her arm up against the wall there. That's also kind of in shadow. All right. Getting there. Let's see. How long have we been going? About 23 minutes. We're making some pretty good progress. Making some good progress here. All right. Actually, I'm going to fill in more of that shadow down here because it's kind of like that's what's happening on this whole side of her where she's kind of leaning over. I think that worked better. Okay, so that's that panel. On to the next. Moving onward. So last weekend was pretty busy. In that I had Plastic City Comic Con in Massachusetts, and I also had a gallery opening reception at the University of New England Art Gallery in Portland, Maine. They're doing a show right now called The Art of the Comic, and I've been in a few different group gallery shows featuring comic artists. This one is by far the best one so far. Just not to say that the others weren't good. This one is just really awesome. So if you happen to be in the Portland area, I would definitely check it out. It's going to be up until October 6th, I think. So you've got some time. Depending on when you watch this video, of course. If you're watching this and it's already past October 6th, 2019, then it's too late. But it's a really good show. I would highly recommend it. So I went to that. That was a lot of fun too. It was a really nice reception they put on. And most of the artists showed up, so there were, along with a lot of other people, so there were plenty of people to talk to and chat about our work and just chat about comics in general. And it was a lot of fun. It was a good time. All right, hoping that still reads, since that's supposed to be the sole of her boot separating from the upper and water just like pouring out of it as she pulls it off. Hopefully that still reads there. It might read better once everything else around it is inked too. So I won't do anything else to it until I ink the rest of the panel and then see how it looks, because sometimes just having everything else around it helps provide enough context that it reads better. A lot of times things don't read very well in a vacuum. So. And then this weekend, I have Down East Fantasy Con in Bangor, Maine. That is tomorrow. Thankfully, Bangor is the closest actual thing resembling civilization to where I live. So it's just a quick drive away from here. I mean, not super quick, but not too bad. I can easily leave my house in the morning, get there, and come home all in the same day, and it's not a big deal. I'm looking forward to it. I always enjoy doing hometown cons and seeing a lot of people that I get to see at a lot of other conventions in the area. It's a lot of fun. This was a good show last year, too. Though last year they held it in Ellsworth, which is a little bit further down. It's like 2 hours from me instead of being around 45 minutes from me. So I'm happy that it's closer now. And the Cross Center is a very nice space to have these sorts of events in. And then after that, I'll have a couple of weeks off, which will be kind of nice. During the con season, I do a lot of shows. And when I have back-to-back weekends like that, it's kind of exhausting. I really enjoy it, which is why I keep doing it. But some weeks, it's just like, oh, I don't know where I'm going to drag this energy up from. Maria looking very disgruntled at her broken boot, making her foot all wet, falling apart when she needs it. Like, how dare you let me down like this, boot? There we go, some more of her wet, stringy hair. It is 2:02. I'm about halfway through this afternoon's stream. Started a little bit late because, or rather, it started on time for when I said it was going to, but late compared to when I normally like to start them. Because my children didn't want to leave the house. All right. Getting there. Getting there on this character. That's about the halfway point for inks on this page. Maybe we'll actually finish it before the hour's out. I'm not gonna make any promises, but it could actually happen. I'm just going to fill that in black because I feel like that's a little less confusing for trying to keep this whole pose straight. That was the wall that you could see behind her, but I feel like that doesn't actually help clarify anything. I think that was actually making that panel more confusing than it needed to be. So we'll fix that. Making it black makes that clearer. That's what we're going to do. All right, going around all those little rings in the water again. Doot, doot, doot. So let's see, this is page 3 in chapter 22. And right now, online at ageofnight.com, I'm on page, I just on Wednesday uploaded page 7 of Interlude 3. Interlude 3 is like a half chapter between chapters 21 and 22. It's like where the books break. That'll be like an intro chapter for the next volume 4, which don't ask me when it's coming out. It's gonna be years from now because I'm just starting it. This is like the 3rd page. So let's see, there's 9 pages in each interlude. So this page is still 5 weeks away from the updating schedule, which is not quite as impressive of buffer as I had when I finished volume 3. I was a good like 3.5 months ahead. But I had to sprint real hard to finish that book for the deadline and release date I had set. So I also, afterwards, I didn't do much for a little while. I kind of had to recover. I was burnt out pretty bad from that. So thankfully, I'm now back at it and maintaining a little bit of a buffer. So it's not too bad. I was pretty exhausted after finishing volume 3. But I wanted to have it out before the con season this year, so that's what I did. All right, so that's 3 out of 5 panels inked. I've got 2 left to do to finish this page up. And let's see, I've got about 20 minutes left. I don't know if I'll finish it, but we'll see how close I can get. Kamaria and her poor sad broken boot. All right. And so after Down East Fantasy Con tomorrow, then I am going to have about a month off, most of August. And then in September, oh gosh, I think I have like 3 shows in September. Because September is GTEX in Texas, in Houston, Texas. I'm very excited about that. I'm a guest at GTEX, which is going to be fun. Although I have to figure out how to ship everything, all of my stuff to Texas, My display is in no way, shape, or form designed to be shipped, so we'll see how that goes. Not quite sure how that's going to work. Got to come up with something. And then the sole is supposed to be all like cracked and sad looking here, right at the flex point. Or busted boot. So I'm excited to be going out to GTEx with Skirmisher Publishing. I'll be helping run their games and selling my stuff, selling some of their stuff that also I have work in because I do oodles of work for them. Should be a great time. And it's always fun hanging out with the Skirmisher crew too. They're good people. And then I think the very next weekend after that is Granite State Comic Con in Manchester, New Hampshire, which is also a really great show. With lots of really great people. I'll be there, of course. My friends from Victory Condition Gaming, Doug and his wife Amanda and his daughter Sydney should all be there. And my friend Shauna Bombard will be there. She's another artist. She does some drawings live on Twitch sometimes, I think. She also plays video games live on Twitch, so if you like watching that, I think she's Prin Crim, I think is how you can find her. I'll have to double check that. Don't quote me on that. I mean, if it does turn up when you look, if she does turn up when you look for that, then that should work. But I don't remember if that's actually it or not. That's usually her online handle. And they're doing a great big, if you're into Ninja Turtles, Granite State Comic Con is going to be huge with Ninja Turtles this year. Lots of Ninja Turtle artists and voice actors. I think they've got all of the original cartoon voice actors coming to the show. Kevin Eastman will be there. Lots of other comic artists who've worked on Turtles over the years. So that'll be fun. Last year was the first time I went to that show, and I had a really great time there. It's a really good show. And then I believe September will also be the Great Falls Comic Expo Fall Edition. They do a show in the spring and a show in the fall, but the show in the spring I had a scheduling conflict and was not able to attend. Whoops, sorry, I banged into the camera with my head. Now the camera's looking at the wall. That's not... Get back over here, camera. There we go. That's more like it. paper is getting caught on my light. So let's see, I've got about 13 minutes left. We're getting there. Getting there through this hour. Got most of this done anyway. I don't know if I'll necessarily finish it, but I'm going to be awful close. So, losing my point there. So yeah, there's a new comic page going up on ageofnight.com every week. And at this point, I've got myself a good enough buffer that I really shouldn't have to miss any weeks. Barring anything disastrous happening in my life. Alright, let's a little closer here and try to get some of this shading on her face. Get the shape on that mouth just right. It's a little bit tricky. More sad, wet, bedraggled hair. So if you happen to be stopping in and watching this and you haven't already, you should make sure to like this channel and hit the notification bell thing so that when I do these live streams, which is almost always at Friday afternoon, usually right around 1 o'clock. Today was a little bit on the later side, but it's usually going to be right around 1:30. If you hit the notification bell, then your phone or desktop or whatever else is synced to your YouTube account will tell you, hey, Amanda's going live. So as you don't miss it. Or even if you can't watch it because you're stuck at work or what have you, at least it will alert you so you can look it up later and watch it later, which is not as fun as getting to chat with me at the time, but I still always appreciate getting comments after the fact. I try to make sure to go through and respond to them, especially if there's questions. But you can also find me and ask me questions on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Age of Night on Twitter and at Amanda Call Art on Instagram. Whoops. Now I'm banging into my microphone. I'm just a disaster. Just a complete disaster. I also have a Patreon, which sometimes I'll do videos for, just exclusively for the Patreon first. Like, they'll usually still end up on the YouTube channel eventually, but patrons will get a first look at them. And depending on which level you decide to support me at, you do get some exclusive content, because some patrons get to see like behind the scenes pencils on all the pages as they're being done, and all patrons get to see the comic a week early. That's always fun too. All right, I guess that panel is done. So now I only have one panel left and 7 minutes left. So we'll see how far I get before our time. Probably not super far, but we'll get it started anyway. We'll have to scoot up really far, so you might not be able to hear me too well because I'm kind of blocking the microphone with my page. Might also be getting treated to some really obnoxious sounds of the page scraping across the microphone cage. Sorry. Not gonna lie, in some respects, life was easier when I still had my little lav mic, but then I dropped it in my tea and I ruined it, so, you know, such is life. So this line for the panel that's going through this word balloon, when I'm done with everything, then I do a pass with the white gouache to white out any mistakes. There's a couple little ink smudges in this word balloon as well. Place where I lost the shape of it on the edge here. So stuff like that I'll go through and I'll do the white gouache to correct, and that will include taking out those lines. That's also when I'll add more of the water ripples and effects. It's the super duper last stage after everything else. It's cleanup. These little lines around her to indicate that she's shivering, which hopefully you would get if you actually, were reading the page, but I figured I'd explain while I was going out of my way to include them. 3 minutes. How far will I get? A little more hair. And that is just about time. Well, I got awful close. I'm super duper close to being done with this page. I've got 4 panels completely inked, all done but for cleanup. And my last panel, my 5th panel, like almost there. Just a few more lines on this figure and filling in the rest of this background with black, and I'll be done with this page. So thank you everyone who spent some time with me this afternoon, watched me work, and hopefully I will see you all again next week.